We're going to dive right into it. We'll talk extensively about Texas A&M Notre Dame coming up as Olin Buchanan from Texags will join us a little bit later on in the show. A lot to get to today, but first let's talk about our friends at BetOnline, the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything football. From preseason NFL to college kickoff, BetOnline has every stat, every matchup, and even live odds and spreads while the games are being played. Think you know your stuff? Get in on a winner-take-all $300,000 NFL Survivor pool for the upcoming season. When the game's over, you can go to the online casino, get in on a game of blackjack or poker or one of the over 150 slots games. Head over to the website today and use promo code BELIEVE, BLEAV, to get in on the action. Bet online. The game starts here. Also, if you'd be interested in sponsoring any of our content here, we've got some slots available. Caroline.smith at Southeastern14.com is who you can contact if you would like to have those conversations. If you'd like to get the word out about your business to the Southeast, we can help you do that here at Southeastern 16. So Caroline.smith at Southeastern14.com. We're going to talk some Aggies football now. Chris, I'll let you introduce our guest we're bringing on today.
Yeah, when we talk Texas A&M football, this is our guy. He's Olin Buchanan at Texags. They just kill it with their coverage over there. Olin and I have been friends for many years, and one of the nicest guys in the sports media business, knows the Aggies inside and out. So when we talk Aggie football, this is the go-to guy. Olin, thanks for joining us today.
Oh, thanks for having me. I got to tell you, both of you guys, I'm really impressed with your backgrounds there. I see Chase with all the pennants. I see you with that SEC. I don't know what you call that.
It's the wheel of vertigo, Olin. That's what it is.
And Texas wanted to find an office befitting of my stature, so they put me in this broom closet here with nothing on it. And so I'm kind of envious of what you guys got going on over there.
I think you need to renegotiate the contract there, my man.
Hey, I'm just trying to keep getting paid.
Are we all?
Well, Olin, a big weekend this weekend. It's not only opening weekend, but Notre Dame coming to College Station. I got to imagine there's a pretty nice feel around College Station right now with having a team like Notre Dame coming in for opening week.
Well, a lot of excitement. I know this is the case all over the SEC, right? Season opening, there's always going to be a crazy anticipation for that and what could be after what had been, and you get all excited about, hey, this is our year and all. So you're going to have that anyway. But when you bring in the Fighting Irish come to town, and maybe they're elite, maybe they're not, but the name is always that mystique is real. So whenever you have a team like Notre Dame coming into town, and you're going to open the season with them, and then game days coming, and all the things go with it. Well, heck yeah, it's a big weekend in College Station.
Olin, we talked a lot before the podcast about the culture change and just some things that are different. How dramatic has the shift been from Jimbo Fisher to Mike Elko?
Well, it's hard to say because it really doesn't matter if the shift in wins and losses doesn't change. But I'll say this, there's a feel, right? I go out to practice, and I feel like it's not just Mike, it's Mike's staff. It seems like it feels like guys are coaching harder. I'm hearing a lot less profanity. I'll say that, and seeing a lot more teaching and a lot less yelling. I'm not saying that there wasn't that also, because coaches do get frustrated sometimes and let the players know about it. But I felt like I heard a lot less of that. That's neither good nor bad. It's just a different style, I think, of coaching. I do believe that there's more accountability. I know that from talking to players, current and former players, that there were times when I would say last year and maybe in previous years, some guys got away with being really lax about strength and conditioning, and when they were supposed to be there, that's out the window now. Brought in Tommy Moffitt, formerly of LSU. He was strength and conditioning coaches for 3 different national championship coaches at LSU, and he's come in here, and they have some expectations. And if you're not willing to do everything you can to meet those expectations, they told some guys, then you can go find a place elsewhere to go, and they did. But you got the feeling that the guys here Uh, maybe before, and I don't want to completely trash Jimbo because he had some good years here, but maybe the last couple of years you got to a feeling that there might be more image than substance.
Yeah.
And I think you're getting the feeling, now we'll see, but there's at least a feeling that maybe there's more substance than image.
And when it comes to this year's team, Connor Weigman at quarterback had the foot injury last year. Just from what you're hearing, what you've seen, where is he at? I mean, should Aggie fans be excited about Connor Weigman leading this offense?
Oh, absolutely. Look, he's 100%. He's ready to go. In the spring, he was still limping a little bit, but he's sufficiently recovered. He's ready to go. Look, if Connor Weigman hadn't gotten hurt, Jimbo Fisher's probably still your coach here. And that's just fact. He's most of us feel like that he's the best quarterback A&M will have had since Johnny Manziel. Now, that's not necessarily a high standard. Kellen Mond had some couple of good years, and Trevor Knight came in here and played pretty well. But beyond that, Kenny Hill had a really nice half of the season. But beyond that, there's been some issues at quarterback. So Connor, when he's healthy, I was looking at it, the games that he started and finished, and keep in mind these are more than half of them were as a true freshman. But if you look at the games he started and finished for A&M, he's averaging around 250 passing yards and 3 touchdowns a game. And he's only thrown 2 interceptions in his career. Both of them were against Miami last year, and neither were his fault. So, if you project that over a 12 or 13 game season, he projects to be a 3,000 plus passer with 30 touchdowns and again, only a few interceptions. And golly, A&M will take it if you can reduce that interceptions total right there. That doesn't guarantee that he's going to throw for 300 or 3,000 yards, but I think he's a guy that absolutely can do that and more if they keep him healthy. He has great accuracy, and he doesn't mind throwing the ball downfield. And he's not going to make anybody confuse him with Jackson Dart or some of the better running quarterbacks, but he runs well enough to extend drives.
Oh, and I look at their skill guys, and they got a lot of good players. You got Daniels and Moss at running back. You got Moose Muhammad. You got Noah Thomas, Ja'Day Walker. You got the transfer, Cyrus Allen, Jabri Barber. I see a lot of guys there. What I want to know is at the end of the year, who has stood out? Like who leads them in rushing, and maybe who are their top 2 or 3 pass catchers?
Yeah, those are great questions because that's I think receiver is one of the biggest question marks that A&M has this year. Look, Le'Veon Moss was projected to be the starting running back. He's pretty good. Now they did the committee last year, and they're still going to. But like I said, Le'Veon's going to be the starting running back. But Reuben Owens was expected to have a really big, be a big factor, a huge role in the offense. He's got big play potential. He's lost for the year with a foot injury, so that's a significant loss. And there's no two way around it. You've got to own that. Look, that hurts. That's a guy that you could give the ball to, and he can go 70 yards. You can hit him in the flat. He can catch it, make somebody miss, and make a big play. Le'Veon has made big plays, I think, but I think his longest run so far has been 36 yards. He's a big, powerful guy who's nimble. He can avoid tackles. I can remember him spinning out of what should have been a 3-yard loss on a 4th and 1 against Arkansas last year and got the first down. So he's more nimble than you might think, but he's more of a power back. And Amari Daniels is a guy who actually led the team in rushing last year and had a 75-yard run against Auburn. So, he's got something to take too. They're not bad at running back by any means, but they would rather have Reuben around. There's no doubt about that. As far as the receivers go, they have a lot of guys that have had great moments, but they don't have anybody that's had a great season. And that's the big question now, or the big concern. Do they have a number 1 receiver? An Earl Bennett. Remember that guy?
Yeah.
You need a big play. That's who you went to. Georgia had A.J. Green. Alabama's had a ton of them. And LSU had a couple of them last year. But you have that number 1 receiver that the defense, they're going to have to be a little bit preoccupied with him and worried about him. They don't have that guy yet. Mike Elko didn't identify. He said he thought he had that number 1 guy. didn't identify him, but we think he's referring to Noah Thomas, a
Yeah.
6'6", 200-pound guy who's gotten stronger, and he needed to, but he's got a great, what they call catch radius. I guess that means if it's high, he can go up and get it. And he's had some nice games, but he had some injury issues last year. Ja'Day Walker was a pleasant surprise last year. And, you mentioned Moose. Moose has made spectacular plays, but Moose has never been a starter. Is Moose going to, and he may not be because Cyrus Allen has looked so good this August. But if Moose can come in and prove that he can be a consistent player, he could turn into a weapon.
Yeah, I guess I'm trying to think of like the alpha dogs, those stud ones, and since Mike Evans, it feels like they hadn't really had. I feel like there was a slot guy somewhere I'm forgetting, but it feels like it's been kind of more committee lately.
It has. The guy you're forgetting, who was absolutely the alpha guy, was Christian Kirk.
Yeah, that's who I was thinking. Yeah,
a few years ago they had Christian Kirk and Josh Reynolds, and that was a pretty good passing combination.
yeah.
Or tandem with for Trevor Knight. Right now they don't have anybody like that. Now, again, they're convinced that Noah Thomas could be. We've seen. I don't know if you saw 2 years ago when A&M upset LSU. Moose is making one-handed catches all over the place. A one-handed touchdown catch is pretty catch as you'll ever see. And he's been productive, but he's never been the starter. Part of that was because Anaya Smith was around.
Yeah.
But he's got to go out and prove that he can make those plays on a consistent basis.
As far as the offensive line goes, couple of transfers in there, a lot of guys back. Is there any concern? Is there maybe one side stronger than the other when you look at the offensive line?
Heck yeah, there's concern. That was the problem, the primary problem area last season. Now, why is that? There's several theories. They weren't. Tommy Moffitt came in here and tested them and said, hey, we're not strong enough. We can't win at the point of attack. And he said, but we're going to get stronger. And who knows? They look stronger. They looked the part at least. You brought in Amaj Reed Adams from Kansas, where he was a starter last year. We still don't know if he's going to start at right tackle or right guard. The depth chart they released this week said right guard. We're still skeptical if they're playing games or not. They feel good about the left side. Trey Zoom's at left tackle's been their best player. He's a third-year starter, started as a true freshman. And they're moving Chase Pasantes to left guard, which is his natural position. Last year, he started as a true freshman at right tackle. And that's just not fair, usually, to ask a true freshman to play in a grown man's league in the SEC against a grown man, typically defensive end, that was also a high-ranked recruit, but has had a couple of years to develop. So he had some growing pains, but now he's grown. He's a really strong kid, and he's at the position that he's supposed to play. So there's some feelings that he should be better there. But the right side is Amaj Reed Adams going to play tackle. If not, you got either Reuben Fothery or Demetrius Crownover, two really big guys that have had some moments, but once again, throughout their career have been inconsistent. And center, we think it's Mark Naboo, who started about 12 games at guard last year and one game at center, but they brought in, and I'm going to butcher the name, I'm probably getting it wrong, Koli Faui from Utah, where he was a starter last year. I have trouble on the Polynesian name. Sorry, it took me about 2 years to get Tagovailoa down. So I had trouble with those names. I still just say DJU when I'm watching Florida State. So, but whoever they decide to start at center, and we may not know until the offense comes out on the field Saturday night, may decide who starts at guard and then who starts at tackle. Because if you just say Coley, and I go with his first name because it's easier. If Coley starts at center, I wouldn't be surprised if Naboo ends up at guard and then Reed Adams out at tackle. So I guess what I'm getting at is, hey, they're still juggling things. Got to get better, though. Have to get better.
All right, I'm going to throw you another pronunciation question. This time we're going to the defensive side of the ball. And this guy's going to main name. Is it Nick Scourton or Scorton from Purdue?
Scorton.
Scorton, okay.
with him, maybe
Yeah.
the A&M defense will score a ton. Who knows? You know, he's a guy,
Yeah, well,
and he's a
it feel
local kid. He's from Bryan
oh,
High. He came out of Bryan, Texas, 2 years ago. He's still only 19. Maybe his birthday might be today. He might turn 20 today. But he came out of Bryan High when Mike Elko was the defensive coordinator here,
huh.
and he weighed 220. And Elko really liked him, but he said, "Son, I just don't know that you're going to be big enough to play defensive end in the SEC." So he goes up to Purdue, works his butt off. Actually, not off, because he got up to 280 and led the Big Ten last year in sacks. So he's coming home. And man, he throughout, practice, but throughout practice, he certainly looks the part. A big guy, very agile, strong, everything you want in a defensive lineman. By the way, let me say this: he had 10 sacks last year. Every one of them was against a Power 5 competition, and he had 2 against Michigan. So it's not like,
Wow.
and who else did you feel like you had to block when you were playing Purdue? So that 10 sacks was legitimate.
And with Mike Elko being the defensive guy that he is,
Yes.
what are we going to see what we saw a couple of years ago when he was a defensive coordinator? Is that kind of what they're leaning to, what the defense will look like?
Yeah, I think so. I think this could be one of the better A&M defenses, definitely one of the better A&M defensive lines. Look, Shamar, I got to get my Shamar straight. Shamar Turner was an all SEC guy as a playing out of position at end last year at 270. They got him bulked up to about 295. He's moving inside where he should be. Got you 6 sacks, and he can get you an inside pass rush. Shamar Turner, I'm sorry, see, I'm already messing up. Shamar Stewart is a guy with incredible physical ability. 6'5", 290. I saw him with my own eyes run down a New Mexico wide receiver in the backfield on a reverse. Grabbed the face mask, unfortunately, so it didn't show up, but it just showed the kind of ability and athleticism he had. But he still only had a sack and a half last year. They think that he's going to be a breakout guy this year, and then probably a 5-star guy last year. DJ Hicks will probably be the starter at the other tackle position. So they feel like the defensive line could be among the best in the country, but they've got to replace a departed All-American, Edgerrin Cooper, now with the Green Bay Packers. They got to replace him at linebacker, and they've got to rebuild a secondary that was really disappointing. They brought in 3 corners through the transfer portal, a couple of safeties, and let's face it, some of the guys that had to play as freshmen should be better as sophomores, but until you actually see them go out and play better, there's going to be some concern about that secondary.
All right, Olin, last one for me, then I'll let Chase wrap us up. Biggest strength for this team, biggest point of concern going into the opener.
Yeah, just what I've talked about. This biggest strength, that defensive line.
Yeah.
And by the way, Notre Dame's offensive line, if you believe their scouting report, I think they've got 6 combined starts on that offensive line. You lost one All-American, Joe Alt, 2 NFL players, Alt up there with the Tennessee Titans now. He's no longer a tackle at Notre Dame. And then the other guy, Blake Fisher, was a 2nd-round pick of the Texans. Those guys aren't gone. In fact, the left tackle they're talking about is a guy, Anthony, what was his last name? I've already forgotten. But he's a true freshman. So I'm sure he's going to get a good dose of Nick Scorton. So that's the strength of A&M, and that's the matchup they're going to like. And the weakness or the point of concern is going to be the offensive line until it shows that it's not a weakness.
Well, it should be fun in College Station on Saturday night. A&M hosting Notre Dame to start the season off. Ola, really appreciate you hopping on with us today, talking some Aggie football. We'll definitely have you on again during the season. But thanks so much for coming on today.
I look forward to it. Always enjoy talking about college football. And remember this: America starts with A&M.